Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4 Chapter 12 Verse 18. Bhaktim haro bhagavati pravahannajasram ananda bashpakalaya muhur ardyamanaha viklidyamana hridaya ulakachitango natmanam asmarad asav iti muktalingaha. Because of his transcendental bliss, incessant tears flowed from his eyes. His heart melted, and there was shivering and standing of the hairs all over his body. Thus transformed in a trance of devotional service, Dhruva Maharaj completely forgot his bodily existence, and thus he immediately became liberated from material bondage. Due to constant engagement in devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping the deity, etc., as described in 9 varieties, there are different symptoms which appear in the body of a devotee. These 8 bodily transformations, which indicate that a devotee is already liberated within himself, are called Ashta Sattvika Vikara. When a devotee completely forgets his bodily existence, he should be understood to be liberated. He is no longer encaged in the body. The example is given that when a coconut becomes completely dry, the coconut pulp within the coconut shell separates from the bondage of the shell and the outer covering. By moving the dry coconut, one can hear that the pulp, which is no longer attached to the shell or to the covering. Similarly, when one is fully absorbed in devotional service, he is completely disconnected from the 2 material coverings, the subtle and gross bodies. Dhruva Maharaj actually attained this stage of life by constantly discharging devotional service. He's already been described as a Mahabhagavata, for unless one becomes a Mahabhagavata or a first class pure devotee, these symptoms are not visible. Lord Chaitanya exhibited all these symptoms. Thakur Haridas also exhibited them. And there are many pure devotees who manifested such bodily symptoms. They are not to be imitated, but one is actually advanced, these symptoms are exhibited. At that time, it is to be understood that the devotee is materially free. Of course, from the beginning of devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens, just as the coconut taken from the tree immediately begins to dry. It simply takes some time for the shell and pulp to separate from one another. Very amazing purport. When a devotee completely forgets his bodily existence, he should be understood to be liberated. He is no longer encaged in the body. Hmm. So when one is fully absorbed in devotional service, he is completely disconnected from the gross and subtle bodies. So when one is fully absorbed, and how do we attain that stage? By constantly discharging devotional service. So by constantly discharging devotional service, one becomes fully absorbed in devotional service. Then he becomes disconnected from the bodily conception. forgets his bodily existence. So again, I'm saying the connection. Here is the connection. Constantly discharging devotional service, one becomes fully absorbed in devotional service and he forgets his bodily existence. This is liberation. And at that point of time, Asta Sattvika Vikara, these transformations manifest. Of course, from the beginning only, this drying up process starts, meaning going towards this absorption, full absorption state is started. It takes some time. Hmm. So, what is the key? The key is to remain constantly engaged in devotional service. That is why Srila Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha Nishchaya Dhairya. We have to have patience. We have to be patient. Mm. And with enthusiasm, we have to practice devotional service. And this word constantly is very important. Constantly, first level of constant is daily, second level of constant is always, all the time. So initially, it is daily because of other responsibilities, etc., and Grasta Dharma. But like we've been discussing, either at Vanaprastha or at a mature stage of devotional service, even before Vanaprastha, one can enter into this constant discharge of devotional service. Even when one starts being constantly engaged in devotional service, still full absorption doesn't come. That full absorption takes some more time. So, first is constant engagement, then full absorption. So, when one comes to the stage of full absorption, so much absorbed that he doesn't, is not aware of his body at all. So, for most of us, it will be first we are doing devotional service here and there, um, whenever we get some time, or yeah, some daily routine is there, but majority of our time is being spent for varnashrama duties, family, etc., which is okay. We should keep um, desiring to spend more time every day i- for devotion, for bhakti. I said this before, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's guidance of 8 hours of bhakti for Grihastha has to become our guideline. And we have to keep desiring, saying that I want to do more, I want to do more, I want to do more. So slowly that 2 hours that we are practicing will increase to two, 2.5, three, 3.5, 4, 5, etc. And at a certain stage in our life, we will move to this constant discharge. We have to. There is no other way. There is just no other way. We cannot think that by doing part-time service, I will achieve perfection. It is not possible. Because tatam kirtayanto manmana bhava madbhakto. All the time we should be Krishna conscious, not some hours in the day. So we have to desire either it is today or tomorrow. We have to come to this stage of constantly engaging in direct devotional service. Now it is all indirect devotional service. I mean, we can't even call it devotional service in some cases, but yeah, if we are maintaining a family which is of all devotees and we are earning to for their maintenance, then yeah, we can say indirectly we are trying to serve devotees. But Shastra recommending constant discharge of direct devotional service, not indirect. Somehow this is also something ISKCON taken conveniently. People don't talk about this. Give up, come join full time. Do devotional service full time. Not much encouraged. But it's very, very clear this purport. Constantly discharging devotional service, right? And then come to the stage of full absorption devotional service. And when that happens only, we become liberated. We become unaware of the body. Meaning we are just constantly engaged in full absorption, whether body is in good condition, bad condition, doesn't matter. And okay, just to keep the body and soul together, we might be doing all our activities like in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that it's just mechanical. Eating, sleeping, evacuating, etc. Just mechanical, just going on like a yantra, like a machine. But the key is this constant engagement, full absorption. We have to reach there. There is no other option. Only then we can, I mean, bodily transformations are beyond our imagination today. Of course, like Prabhupada is saying, once we start this process of pure devotional service, the process starts. So some of these Asta Sattvika Vikara we can experience, like, here. Mm, some tears flow from our eyes also at times. But when it comes to this stage, then it is incessant. Our heart also melts now and then. We also have standing affairs now and then. But then it all becomes incessant, continuous, and it's a stage of trance. Mm. An important word in this verse is Mukta Linga. Mukta means liberated. Linga means the subtle body. When a man dies, he quits the gross body, but the subtle body of mind, intelligence, ego carries him to a new body. While existing in the present body, the same subtle body carries him from one stage of life to another, in boyhood, childhood to boyhood, by mental development. The mental condition of a baby is different from that of a boy. The mental condition of a boy is different from that of a young man. And the mental condition of a young man is different from that of an old man. So at death, the process of changing bodies takes place due to the subtle body. The mind, intelligence, and ego carry the soul from one gross body to another. This is called transmigration of soul. But there is another stage when one becomes liberated even from the subtle body. At the time, the living entity is competent and fully prepared to be transferred to the transcendental or spiritual world. So we have to become liberated from subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego. The description of the bodily symptoms of Sri Dhruva Maharaj makes it apparent that he became perfectly fit to be transferred to the spiritual world. One can experience the distinction between the subtle and gross bodies even daily. In a dream, one's gross body is lying on the bed while the subtle body carries the soul, the living entity, to another atmosphere. But because the gross body has to be continued, the subtle body comes back and settles in the present gross body. So look at this, so beautiful. We've been going out, in and out of this gross body. you know, so when we are dreaming, we actually give up this body. But it's a temporary state of giving up. Because the subtle body is there, subtle body will bring the Atma back to the gross body. So one has to become free from the subtle body also. This freedom is known as Mukta Linga. Amazing purport. Mm. Okay, any questions? Anybody? Is this clear? Okay. Tadarsha Vimanagriyam Nabasovataradhruvah Vibhrajayad Dasha Disho Rakapatim Ivoditam. As soon as the symptoms of his liberation were manifest, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. The different levels of acquired knowledge: direct knowledge, knowledge received from authorities; transcendental knowledge, knowledge by the senses; and finally spiritual knowledge. When one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he is immediately situated on the transcendental platform. Dhruva Maharaj, being liberated from the material concept of life, was situated in transcendental knowledge and could perceive the presence of a transcendental airplane which was as brilliant as the full moonlight. It is not possible in the stages of direct or indirect perception of knowledge. Such knowledge is a special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can, however, rise to this platform of knowledge by the gradual process of advancing in devotional service. Hmm. Actually, I don't completely understand this. What is this transcendental knowledge and finally spiritual knowledge? Maybe it's not sure what this means. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't. I can't explain this. तत्रानुदेव प्रवरौ चतुर्भुजौ श्यामौ किशोराव अरुणाम्बुजेक्षणौ पिताव अवष्टभ्य गदां सुवाससौ किरीटहाराङ्गदचारुकुण्डलौ. Dhruva saw two very beautiful associates of Lord Vishnu in the plain. They had four hands and a blackish bodily luster. They were very youthful and their eyes were just like reddish lotus flowers. They held clubs in their hands and they were dressed in very attractive garments and with helmets and were decorated with necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. The inhabitants of Vishnu Loka are of the same bodily feature as Lord Vishnu, and they also hold club, conch shell, lotus, and disc. In this verse, it is distinctly stated that they had four hands and were nicely dressed. The description of their bodily decorations corresponds exactly to that of Vishnu. So that the two uncommon personalities who descended from the airplane came directly from Vishnu Loka, or the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. So all other features are same except the Kaustuba and the Srivatsa. These two things are not there in with there only with Lord Vishnu. Vignayata uttamagaya kinkarau abhyuttita sadvasa vismrita kramaha nanama namani grinan madudvishaha parshat pradhanav iti samhatanjalihi. Dhruva Maharaj, seeing that these uncommon personalities were direct servants of the Supreme Person of Godhead, immediately stood up. But being puzzled in hastiness, he forgot how to receive them in the proper way. Therefore, he simply offered obeisances with folded hands and chanted and glorified the holy names of the Lord. Chanting of the holy names of the Lord is perfect in every way. When Dhruva saw the Vishnu Dutas, the direct associates of Lord Vishnu, four-handed and nicely decorated, he could understand who they were, but for the time being he was puzzled. But simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna mantra, he could satisfy the uncommon guests who had all of a sudden arrived before him. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord is perfect, even though one does not know how to please Lord Vishnu or his associates. Simply by sincerely chanting the holy name of the Lord, everything becomes perfect. A devotee, therefore, either in danger or in happiness, constantly chants the Hare Krishna mantra. When he is in danger, he is immediately relieved, and when he is in a position to see Lord Vishnu or his associates directly by chanting this Mahamantra, he can please the Lord. This is the absolute nature of the Mahamantra. Either in danger or in happiness, it can be chanted without limitation. Tam Krishna Padabhinivishtachetasam Vadhanjalim Prashraya Namrakandharam Sunandananda Upasritya Sasmitam Pratyuchata Pratyuchathu Pushkaranabhasammatau. Dhruva Maharaj was always absorbed in thinking of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. His heart was full with Krishna. When two confidential servants of Supreme Lord who were named Nanda and Sunanda approached him, smiling happily, Dhruva stood with folded hands, bowing humbly. They then addressed him as follows. In this verse, the word Pushkaranabha Sammatau is significant. Krishna, Lord Vishnu, is known for his lotus eyes, lotus navel, lotus feet, and lotus palms. Here, he is called Pushkaranabha, which means Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has a lotus navel. And Sammatau means two confidential or very obedient servants. The materialistic way of life differs from the spiritual way of life in that one is disobedience and the other is obedience to the will of the Supreme Lord. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and they're supposed to be always agreeable to the order of the Supreme Person. That is perfect oneness. So we have to be agreeable to the order, meaning we have to follow the order of the Supreme Person. That is perfect oneness. Meaning we should not have our own free will. We should not use our own free will. We should simply understand the order of Guru and Krishna and align with it. That's all. In the Vaikuntha world, all the living entities are in oneness with the Supreme Godhead because they never defy his orders. Here in the middle world, however, they are not sammata, agreeable, but always asammata, disagreeable. This human form of life is a chance to be trained to be agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Lord. To bring about this training in society is the mission of Krishna conscious movement. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the laws of material nature are very strict. No one can overcome the stringent laws of material nature. But one who becomes a surrendered soul and agrees to the order of the Supreme Lord can easily overcome those stringent laws. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is very fitting simply by becoming agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Lord and by developing love of God. Dhruva got the chance to personally meet the confidential servants of Lord Vishnu face to face. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for everyone. Anyone who very seriously engages in devotion service can obtain, in due course of time, the same perfection of the human form of life. Hmm. Hmm. Again, seriously engage. We have to become agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Person who got it. Yeah. Sunananda chatuhu. Bho rajan subhadram te vacham no vahita shrunu. Yap panchavarshas tapasa bhavan devam matitrapat. And then Sunanda, the two confidential associates of Lord Vishnu said, Dear King, let there be all good fortune unto you. Please attentively hear what we shall say. When you are only 5 years old, you underwent severe austerities and you thereby greatly satisfied the Supreme Person of Godhead. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for anyone. Not possible, nahi. Possible for anyone. Any 5-year-old child can be trained, and within a very short time, his life will become successful by realization of Krishna consciousness. All parents having 5 year or less than 5 year children, please note. Unfortunately, this training is lacking all over the world. It is necessary for the leaders of the Krishna conscious movement to start educational institutions in different parts of the world to train children starting at the age of 5 years. Thus, such children will not become hippies or spoiled children of society. Rather, they can all become devotees of the Lord. The face of the world will then change automatically. So, Prabhupada is clearly saying we should start gurukuls. We should start educational institutions. Of course, gurukuls were historically meant for male child, but for female children, the education was at home, homeschooling. So this is what is recommended historically. Mm, that boys go to gurukul, girls stay at home and learn from mother and other elderly women in the house. Prabhupada is saying, don't send them to this, what is this, slaughterhouse, um, because they're going to get spoiled. They become spoiled. They should all become devotees of the Lord. So create an environment where they can all become devotees. Then face of the world will change automatically. And Prabhupada is very clearly saying any 5-year-old child can be trained. And within a short time, very short time, sorry, within a very short time, his life will become successful. तस्याखिल जगद्धातुरावां देवस्य सांगिनः पार्षदाव इह सम्प्राप्तौ नेतुं त्वां भगवत्पदम्. We are representatives of the Supreme Person of Godhead, the creator of the whole universe, who carries in his hand the bow named Shanga. We have been specifically deputed to take you to the spiritual world. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that simply by knowing his transcendental pastimes, anyone who understands actually who he is, how he appears and how he acts can be immediately fit for transfer to the spiritual world. This principle stated in the Bhagavad Gita operated in the case of King Dhruva. Throughout his life, he tried to understand the Supreme Person of Godhead by austerity and penances. Now, the mature result was that Dhruva became fit to be carried to the spiritual world, accompanied by the confidential associates of the Lord. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvata tetvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sodhana. simply by knowing his transcendental pastimes. Anyone who understands factually who he is, and we have to understand him. This is the important part. Understanding him is important. Understanding how he appears, how he acts, can be immediately fit. If one can understand who he is, how he appears, how he acts, he can be immediately fit to transfer to be transferred to the spiritual world. So it's not just pastimes. Pastimes with the understanding of Bhagavat Tattva. We have to understand him. We have to understand his activities. We have to understand his appearance. So we have to understand, not just hear. Of course, constant hearing, sincere hearing, Tene Brahmadaya, the Lord will reveal the understanding from within. But the idea is to come to the stage of understanding. But the path can just be simply Shravanam from a pure devotee. Constant Shravanam will result in that. Factually understanding. This factual understanding is Vijnanam. It's not Gnanam, it's Vijnanam. Mm, Vijnana means realized knowledge, experience knowledge, meaning realization. सुदुर्जयं विष्णुपदं जितं त्वया यत्सूरयो प्राप्य विचक्षते परम् आतिष्ठ तच्चन्द्रदिवाकरादयो ग्रहर्क्ष तारा पर्यन्ति दक्षिणम्. To achieve Vishnu Loka is very difficult, but by your austerity you have conquered. Even the great rishis and demigods cannot achieve this position. Simply to see the supreme abode, the sun and moon, and all the other planets, stars, lunar mansions, and solar systems are circumambulating it. So simply to see the supreme abode, sun, moon, planets, stars, everybody is circumambulating it. And Dhruva Loka. Now come, please come. You are welcome to go there. Even in this material world, the so-called scientists, philosophers, mental speculators strive to merge into the spiritual sky, but they can never go there. But a devotee, by executing devotional service, not only realizes what the spiritual world actually is, but actually goes there to live an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. Krishna consciousness movement is so potent that by adopting these principles of life and developing love of God, one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. Here, the practical example is the case of Dhruva. While the scientist and philosopher go to the moon but are disappointed in their attempts to stay there and live. So Prabhupada is saying they maybe went to the moon, they can't stay there. It's like they go, they see, and they have to come back. They can't enter the planet. The devotee makes an easy journey to other planets and ultimately goes back to Godhead. Of course, we should not desire to make any easy journey to any other planets, but we should directly go back to Godhead. Devotees have no interest in seeing other planets, but while going back to Godhead, they see all of them as passing spaces. Just as one who is going to a distant place passes through many small stations. So Prabhupada is explaining that, yeah, when we are just going back to Godhead, we will see all these as passing phases. Devotee should not have interest in seeing other places, other planets. अनास्थितं ते पितृभिरन्यैरप्यङ्गकर्हिचित् आतिष्ठ जगतां वन्द्यं तद्विष्णो परमं पदम्. Taking through neither your forefathers nor anyone else before you ever achieved such a transcendental planet, the planet known as Vishnu Loka, where Lord Vishnu personally resides, is the highest of all. It is worshipable by the inhabitants of all other planets within the universe. Please come with us and live there. It's called Vishnu Loka, Dhruva Loka. When Dhruva went to perform austerities, he was very determined to achieve a post never dreamed of by his forefathers. His father was Uttanapada, grandfather Manu, great grandfather Lord Brahma. So Dhruva wanted a kingdom even greater than Lord Brahma could achieve, and he requested Narada Muni to give him facility for achieving it. The associates of Lord Vishnu reminded him that not only his forefathers but everyone else before him was unable to attain Vishnu Loka. This is because everyone within this material world is either a karmic gnani or a yogi, but there are hardly any pure devotees. Please note. The transcendental planet known as Vishnu Loka is especially meant for devotees, not for karmic gnani yogis. Great rishis or demigods can hardly approach Brahma Loka. Brahma Loka is not a permanent residence. Lord Brahma's duration of life is so long that it is difficult to estimate even the duration of one day in his life. And yet Lord Brahma also dies. So as do the residents of his planet. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Except for those who go to Vishnu Loka, everyone is subjected to the four principles of material life: birth, death, old age, and disease. Lord says, Yadgatva Nivartante Tadhama Paramam Mama. The planet from which one's going, no one returns is my supreme abode. Dhruva Maharaj was reminded, you are going in our company to that planet from which no one returns to this material world. Material scientists are attempting to go to the moon and other planets, but they cannot imagine going to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, for it is beyond their imagination. By material calculation, traveling at the speed of light, it would take 40,000 light years to reach the topmost planet. By mechanical process, we are unable to reach the topmost planet of this universe, but the process called Bhakti Yoga, as executed by Dhruva Maharaj, can give one the facility not only to reach other planets within this universe, but also to reach beyond this universe to the Vishnu Loka planets. We have outlined this in our small booklet, Easy Journey through Other Planets. So they're saying, come to Vishnu Loka. It's not easy, the highest of all. It's worshipable by all. O immortal one, this unique airplane has been sent by the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is worshipped by selected prayers and who is the chief of all living entities. You are quite worthy to board such a plane. According to astronomical calculation, along with the pole star, there is another star which is called Shishumara, where Lord Vishnu, who is in charge of the maintenance, resides. This is another. Okay, so Prabhupada is saying that this Vishnu Loka is Shishumara, Shishumara star. Shishumara or Dhruva Loka can never be reached by anyone but the Vaishnavas. Okay, the associates of Lord Vishnu brought the special airplane for Dhruva and then informed him that Lord Vishnu had especially sent this airplane. Okay, this is Shishumara. Okay. Vaikuntha airplane does not move by mechanical arrangement. There are three processes for moving in outer space. One of them is known to the modern scientists. It's called Kopata Vayu. Kapota Vayu. Ka means outer space. Pota means ship. There's a second process called also called Kapota Vayu. Kapota also means pigeon. One can train pigeons to carry one into outer space. The third process is very subtle. It is called Akasha Patana. This Akasha Patana system is also material, just as the mind can fly anywhere one likes without mechanical arrangement. So the Akasha Patana airplane can fly at the speed of mind. Beyond this Akasha Patana system is the Vaikuntha process, which is completely spiritual. The airplane sent by Lord Vishnu to carry Dhruva to Shishumara was a completely spiritual transcendental airplane. Material scientists can neither see such vehicles nor imagine how they fly in the air. Material scientists have no information about the spiritual sky, although it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So Kapota Vayu process 1, which is through this spaceship. Kapota Vayu process 2, which is through pigeon. Akasha Patana, which is through a more subtle arrangement, but still mechanical, flying at the speed of mind. And the Vaikuntha process, completely spiritual. So the airplane was sent was from Vaikuntha, which was about to take Dhruva to Shishumara. So we can understand this Shishumara is also called Dhruva Loka. And on Shishumara also Lord Vishnu resides. Now here it is saying who is in charge of maintenance. Now that means that it is Shweta Dvipa. But again it's not clear whether it is actually Shweta Dvipa. Because Kshiroda Kashai Vishnu stays in Shweta Dvipa. So is Shweta Dvipa only called Shishumara? I'm not sure. Because Shishumara is another star. So unclear. The great sage Maitreya continued, Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to the Supreme Person of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, after he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings, we should mark how dutiful Dhruva was in his devotional service even at the time he left this material world. He was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. Every devotee should take his bath early in the morning and decorate his body with tilaka. In Kali Yuga, one can hardly acquire gold or jeweled ornaments, but the 12 tilaka marks on the body are sufficient as auspicious decorations to purify the body. Since Dhruva was living at that time at Badarikashram, there were other great sages there. He did not become puffed up because the airplane sent by Lord Vishnu was waiting for him. As a humble Vaishnava, he accepted blessings from all the sages before riding on the plane brought by the chief of the Vaikuntha associates. Very nice. Humble Vaishnava. Before getting aboard, Dhruva worshipped the airplane, circumambulated it, and also offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the meantime, he became as brilliant and illuminating as molten gold. He was thus completely prepared to board the transcendental plane. In the absolute world, the plane, the associates of Lord Vishnu and Vishnu himself are all spiritual. There's no material contamination. In quality, everything there is one. Lord Vishnu is worshipable, so also are his associates. His paraphernalia, his airplane, and his abode for everything of Vishnu's is as good as Lord Vishnu. Dhruva Maharaj knew all this very well as a pure Vaishnava, and he offered his respects to the associates and to the plane before riding in it. But in the meantime, his body changed into spiritual existence, and therefore it was illuminating like molten gold. In this way, he also became one with the other paraphernalia of Vishnu Loka. So he got the spiritual body. Mayavadi philosophers cannot imagine how this oneness can be achieved even in different varieties. Their idea of oneness is that there is no variety, therefore they become impersonalists. As Shishumara, Vishnu Loka, or Dhruva Loka are completely different from this material world, so Vishnu temple within this world is also completely different from this material world. As soon as we are in a temple, we should know very well that we are situated differently from the material world. In the temple, Lord Vishnu, his throne, his room, and all other things associated with the temple are transcendental. The three modes have no entrance into the temple. We said, therefore, that to live in the forest is in the mode of goodness, live in the city is in the mode of passion, and to live in a brothel, liquor, shop, or slaughterhouse is in the mode of ignorance. But to live in the temple means to live in Vaikuntha. Everything in the temple is as worshipable as Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So, which is why we should understand that we should never, putting mats, drawing them with the leg, no using of leg. Everything there is worshipable within the temple. No touching the leg. In practical, we have to understand. We have to mm, mm, try as much as possible. Sometimes practically it becomes difficult, but we have to still try. We have to have the consciousness that it's all worshipable. It's as worshipable as Lord Vishnu. When Dhruva was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him, not caring for death. However, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house. So Dhruva Maharaja did not die. To take the passing away of a devotee and the passing away of a non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. While ascending the transcendental airplane, Dhruva Maharaj suddenly saw death personified before him, but he was not afraid. Instead of death giving him trouble, Dhruva took advantage of death's presence and put his feet on the head of the death. People with a poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between the death of a devotee and the death of a non-devotee. In this connection, an example can be given. A cat carries its kittens in its mouth and it also catches a rat in its mouth. Superficially, the catching of the rat and the kitten appear to be one and the same, but actually they are not. When the cat catches the rat in its mouth, it means death for the rat, whereas when the cat catches the kitten enjoys it. When Dhruva boarded the airplane, he took advantage of the arrival of death personified who came to offer him obeisances. Putting his feet on the head of death, he got up on the unique airplane, which is described here to be as big as a house. There are many other similar instances. Bhagavata literature stated that when Kardama Muni created an airplane to carry his wife Devahuti all over the universe, the airplane was like a big city carrying many houses, lakes, gardens. Modern scientists have manufactured big airplanes, but they're packed with passengers who experience all sorts of discomforts while riding in them. Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane in order to compare to the plane used by Kardama or the plane sent from Vishnu Loka. They must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city with all the comforts of life, lakes, gardens, parks, etc. Their plane must be able to fly in outer space and hover and visit all other planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel into outer space. Such a plane could have an unlimited supply of fuel, or like the plane from Vishnu Loka would fly without it. I'm just going to conclude this maybe another one verse. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva. Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane, which was just about to start when he remembered his poor mother Suniti. He thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother? Okay, this is a very important part refuting the female Diksha Guru system. Dhruva had a feeling of obligation to his mother Suniti. It was Suniti who had given him the clue which had now enabled him to be personally carried over to the Vaikuntha planet by the associates of Lord Vishnu. He now remembered her and wanted to take her with him. Actually, Dhruva Maharaj's mother Suniti was his Pata Pradarshaka Guru, not Diksha Guru. Pata Pradarshaka Guru. Pata Pradarshaka Guru means the Guru or the spiritual master who shows the way. Such a Guru is sometimes called Shiksha Guru. Although Narada Muni was his Diksha Guru, Suniti, his mother, was the first who gave him instruction on how to achieve the favor of the Supreme Person of Godhead. It is the duty of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct the disciple in the right way, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. According to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. There's no question of carrying Narada Muni to Vaikuntha. But Dhruva Maharaj thought of his mother. It's very clear. Being a woman, he said. So, yeah, Shastra clearly there's no recommendation for a female Diksha Guru. In general, there are certain exceptions. Uh, but yeah, but yeah, she was Patha Pradarshaka Guru. Sometimes they can also be called Shiksha Guru, or sometimes Patha Pradarshaka Guru will only just show the way, and then we might not be in touch with them at all. But whenever we see them, we should remember and respect them because they gave us the path. And then there is Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, which we have discussed. Generally, Shiksha Guru becomes Diksha Guru, meaning Shiksha Guru means one who gives instruction, meaning hearing, receiving instructions, Shravanam. Generally, the person who gives the instructions becomes Diksha Guru. So in our ISKCON, so Prabhupada is the first Shiksha Guru, preeminent Shiksha Guru for everybody. The one hears from here, Shiksha Guru from Prabhupada to understand what bhakti is, to understand Sambandha Videya Prayojana. And then we will also hear from other senior Vaishnavas who also become other Shiksha Gurus, from whom we start getting more instructions or more specific instructions or more detailed instructions for following. And then they eventually become the Diksha Guru. This is the process. Whatever plan the Supreme Person of Godhead contemplates immediately fructifies. Similarly, devotee who is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. This is also very important. The pure devotee is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. His wishes also will be fulfilled by the grace of the Lord. The Lord fulfills his wishes independently, but a devotee fulfills his wishes simply by being dependent on the Supreme Lord. Therefore, as soon as Dhruva thought of his poor mother, he was assured by the associates of Vishnu that Suniti was also going to Vaikuntha in another plane. Dhruva had thought that he was going alone to Vaikuntha, leaving behind his mother, which was not very auspicious because people would criticize him for going alone to Vaikuntha and not carrying with him Suniti, who had given him so much. But Dhruva also considered that he was not personally the supreme. Therefore, only if Krishna fulfilled his desires would it be possible. Krishna could immediately understand his mind and he told Dhruva that his mother was also going with him. This incident proves that a pure devotee like Dhruva can fulfill all his desires by the grace of the Lord. He becomes exactly like the Lord, and thus, whenever he thinks of anything, his wish is immediately fulfilled. So, such pure devotees are very, very careful about what they wish, and they don't wish anything for their own personal benefit. Whatever they desire will be in connection with pleasing the Supreme Lord, in connection with Srila Prabhupada's movement, in connection with spiritual progress for other devotees, etc., etc. But it will not be material, it will not be personal. Because the Lord will fulfill it. The Lord fulfills. Why? Because we are completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. So please note this statement. It's a very powerful one. Devotee who is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. And by the grace of the Lord, he becomes exactly like the Lord. And thus, whenever he thinks of anything, his wish is immediately fulfilled. So we have to be very, very careful. Yeah, those who are completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, they can understand what this means. Okay, another 2-3 minutes, we'll just finish. The great associates of Vaikuntha, Lokananda and Sunanda could understand the mind of Dhruva, and thus they showed him that his mother Suniti was going forward in another plane. This incident proves that Shiksha or Diksha Guru, as a disciple who strongly executes devotional service like Dhruva, can be carried by the disciple even though the instructor is not as advanced. This is another. The disciple might be more advanced than Guru, it's Prabhupada is saying. Although Suniti was an instructor to Dhruva, she could not go to the forest because she was a woman, nor could she execute austerities and penances as Dhruva did. Still, Dhruva was able to take his mother with him. Similarly, Prahlada also delivered his atheistic father Hiranyakashipu. Conclusion is that a disciple or an offspring who is a very strong devotee can carry with him to Vaikuntha either his father, mother, or Shiksha or Diksha Guru. The Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, if I could perfectly deliver even one soul back home, back to Godhead, I would think my mission to be successful. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading now all over the world, and sometimes I think that even though I am crippled in many ways, if one of my disciples becomes as strong as Dhruva, then he will be able to carry me with him to Vaikuntha. Prabhupada is just in his, humblest of, just humbly speaking, saying, his disciples can carry him back to Vaikuntha. Okay, how many more verses? 1 second. 34. Okay, I think we can just read the rest, or maybe one more class. Okay, we'll do one more class. 34. Okay, we'll finish this tomorrow. Maybe we'll stop it. Any comments? Any comments,
Hare
questions?
Krishna, Prabhuji. That was
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I
Mama.
just want to know, like when you are leaving the body, if you're in a coma or you're absolutely blank, then what happens, Prabhu? Like this is the worst thing to be in a coma when you pass.
Yeah, because that's
pass.
a material condition, no? So it doesn't matter.
So what does the subtle body carry? The previous thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. See, the subtle body is like a repository. It's not, see, this, when they say at the time of death, right? The thoughts in the mind at the time of death is also going to be the same, just slightly before death also. So the mind is carrying these thoughts. Like, see, coma is just a gross body becoming useless. Subtle body is still functioning. So whatever thoughts are there in the subtle body will be accordingly the jiva will be transferred. And anyway, for devotees, we don't have to worry about that. We have to just worry about what we are doing when we are alive and kicking.
No,
So as
because
long,
Ajamal chanted the name of the Lord that time. No, Prabhu, like I mean, his
yeah, but
previous
other
this thing.
shastra,
No,
other
that's
shastra is
it.
also,
Huh. So
other
if
shastra is
somebody,
saying that it doesn't matter.
no, if somebody takes the name of the Lord or he hears chanting, like he gets that Sukruti, no,
Yeah,
Prabhu.
he gets, but also those who spend all their life chanting,
Huh.
but for whatever reason they're not able to chant at the time of death, Krishna says, I will come, I will take
Come,
care.
yeah, Sukruti will get it.
Not
Some
Sukruti, Bhakti. He's
bhakti,
already
bhakti.
reached.
Okay.
Body, the bodily condition may or may not allow. I mean, see, now today, for example, so many of our great, devotees in ISKCON, we see finally when they left their body, so many pipes around their, body, etc. Does it mean that they were not in Krishna consciousness? No, they were in perfect Krishna consciousness. So the external body, whatever happens to that body is just Krishna's will, however he wants, whatever pastime he wants to, or whatever he wants to do at that situation is up to him. But because the devotee has lived his life all throughout his life, he's been Krishna conscious. Even in the midst of all those, pipes and cylinders, etc., he will still be Krishna conscious. So it doesn't matter. For devotees, it doesn't matter. That's why I said, we have to be only worried about what we are doing when we are alive and kicking. That's the only thing that matters. These things don't matter. Because Krishna will take care. Provided we have been sincerely engaged, Krishna will take care.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Shashank Prabhu, I don't have an answer to your question. That whole purport I didn't understand, so I have to read it again. Some things that I thought transcendental knowledge, spiritual knowledge, Prabhupada is written something that I'm not able to understand. Okay. Anything else? Okay, then we'll close here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Prabhupada Anandya Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha, Ananta Koti Vaishnavibhyo ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.